All right, what's up, guys? Monty here, retired lawyer, active father, and today I want to talk about what to do and what you can do when she is pregnant. I thought about calling this video "What to Expect When She's Expecting," but I changed my mind because at the end of the day, I don't know anything about you or your life or your significant other, the mother of your child. And so I don't know what you can expect. I don't know what you can expect from her. I don't know what you can expect from your employer, your family. So I didn't think that was the best title for the video. And I changed it because what to do when she is pregnant, I mean, those are actionable things that you can actually do irrespective of your circumstances, to prepare for this baby's arrival and give your baby the best you got. Try to make sure it gets off to the best start possible. So no matter what else is anything going on in your life, these are the things you can do when she is pregnant. Number one, and it's most important, I think. It's the reason I called the first video "Kiss the Child," because it has to do with adopting a mindset that is going to basically carry you all the way through fatherhood. And I don't mean to put too fine a point on it, but it really is that profound. You have to decide for yourself, and maybe you already have, but you have to decide and take up the mindset that no matter what, it is your mission to support certain things in the home. And here's what they are. It is your mission, Dad, to support peace in the home. It's your mission to support rest in the home. It's your mission to support love, fun, nutrition, and hydration. And I got to stay on this for a little bit because I think it just will govern everything else that follows. Kissing the child isn't just about the action of kissing the child. It's about kissing him constantly and constantly showing him in that behavioral way how much love and affection you have for him. But also that mom is witness to that, that friends and family who are at the house see you doing that, that other people perhaps kiss the kid more, that it sets the right tone for the entire environment in your home. Not just one day, but all the days to come. And by the same token, the first and best thing you can do to prepare for the birth of your baby is to decide for yourself in your own mind and heart that above all, you're going to support peace in the home. I put that first because it's the most important thing. I fervently believe that as the second trimester gives way to the third trimester, this baby is, you're dealing with a sentient being. You're dealing with a creature who has increasingly a level of consciousness and responds to and reacts to stimuli, positive stimuli and negative stimuli. I don't have the scientific studies to back it up. Talk to your pediatrician about it. I don't think it's a great leap of logic or reason to conclude that babies are affected by mom's external environment and the emotions that she's feeling inside. I don't think it's a great leap to believe that if a mom is happy or not stressed out, relatively relaxed, has basic needs met, feels good about herself and the world, and is shown love, that inures to the benefit of the life that's growing inside of her. And I don't think it's a great leap to believe, conversely, that if there's anger, hatred, vitriol, yelling, screaming, fighting, arguing in the home, loud, unpleasant noises and conduct, and that mom is feeling all that on the inside, and that she's got her cortisol levels raised, that's going to affect the kid too. Not only do I believe it in my heart, I just think there's, a basis for that belief. I think there's data and research and literature to support it. Feel free to look it up. You don't got to take my word for it. But I am telling you that the welfare and the well-being of your baby begins with pregnancy. So that's why this is really the first or the second episode in the series, because it begins here. And above all, you have to support peace. You know, that doesn't mean you're a doormat. That doesn't mean you just, you know, you don't stick up for yourself. That doesn't mean you don't ever have discussions or, you know, verbal, even, you know, arguments, constructive arguments or discussions about things. But it does mean essentially that, you know, if push comes to shove, figuratively, not literally, you support peace above all. You know, there were, I think my wife and I had a pretty good relationship throughout her pregnancy. We didn't have any major problems, but, you know, we had our moments just like anything else. And I could probably pluck out a handful of cases where, you know, something took me by surprise. I kind of, you know, was concerned about something. I was, you know, in the moment, I was like, what? But I had to kind of just step back or stand down or place the importance of the home environment above, you know, whatever emotions I was feeling. You know, it doesn't mean that one single, you know, bout of, you know, whatever happens, or if there's momentarily not peace in the home, that, you know, the baby's going to be screwed or anything. But you have to think about that. You have to support peace above all. You have to support rest. Make sure mom's getting the sleep that she needs. So are you. You have to support love. Peace above all, even if there can't always be love. But it's your job, Dad, to try to create love and warmth in the home. Your baby will benefit. Everyone will benefit from it. So there you go. Peace, rest, love, fun. You know, the more fun, for lack of a better word, that mom is having and feeling, you know, general contentment and happiness, it's going to help the baby grow and thrive inside the womb and then afterward. Nutrition, I thought about putting food there, but it's more important to say nutrition, because it's not just about stuffing calories in your face. It is your job now to make sure that mom eats well. That doesn't mean telling her what to eat and when and bossing her around. But if she doesn't eat well, you know, maybe the two of you together can take it upon yourselves to try to eat better. Nourish your bodies and your baby's body growing inside her, starting today. If she already does eat well, maybe it can be your job, you know, to go to the grocery store, make sure you pick up that wild salmon, make sure you pick up the fresh vegetables and fruits, whole grains, milk, yogurt, whatever. If she can't get to that, you know, make sure that, you know, even assuming she's on board, make sure that she's eating well. I used to go to, you know, the supermarket, Whole Foods, when my wife was pregnant, and come home with, you know, pasta and blackened salmon, so that she got those good healthy fats inside her and inside the baby, for example. And the last thing is hydration. There, I probably should have called it just water instead of hydration, because nowadays people use all kinds of things to hydrate themselves, between, you know, energy drinks and fruit juices and all that. And really what you ought to think about is water, man. Water. Make sure you're drinking enough water, but make sure mom's drinking enough water. This isn't a lecture on diet and nutrition and all that, but our bodies are comprised of water. We need water. Other things are not a substitute for water. Sometimes they take away from our health rather than adding to it. So make sure, Dad, that you're supporting peace in the home, rest, love, fun, nutrition, and hydration. The second thing you can do when she is pregnant is simply to learn as much as you can about newborn babies and about early childhood development, but really just learn as much as you can about caring for a newborn. What are you going to have to do when the baby's born? The more you know now, the more prepared and confident you'll feel, the more at ease you'll feel, especially after the beginning, because when you're taking on a new subject, it may be overwhelming at first. But as you get your arms around it and learn more, you will feel more at ease than you did before. Surely more at ease than you did before when you're in the dark and you're just, if you're putting your head in the sand, you're just waiting. It's like a ticking time bomb and you're just waiting for it to go off. You're going to feel better and have less anxiety if you educate yourself now. Maybe you're already starting to do that by watching these videos. Great. This series is geared towards expecting dads more than it is to dads who have a newborn at home and they're trying to Google something on the fly in a moment of crisis, trying to figure out what to do about a crying baby. Maybe some of the content I put out later will speak to those, acute issues that pop up. But really what motivated me to do these videos is that it would be a resource for dads whose, the mom, the wives or girlfriends are pregnant and they have time now to educate themselves. And that's what I would say is there's not going to be time later. There's not going to be time later to thoughtfully and intelligently research things when a baby's crying. You're going to be stressed out and you're going to want to put that fire out as quickly as you can. And you're probably going to run those internet searches anyway, and you're probably going to freak out anyway, but you can't just do that on the fly and begin to learn everything that you need to know at that point in time. There's not going to be time for that. So please hear me out. Now would be the time to do those types of things. Learn as much as you can now, and you will be taking a major, major, major step forward towards a thriving, healthy baby. I would say pay particular attention to breastfeeding. We're going to get to that, but just as a preview, what taking care of a newborn boils down to is breastfeeding and naps, food and sleep. That's it. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, but those are the two big ticket things. And in the first, ideally 6 months to a year of your baby's life, they're going to be breastfeeding. We'll talk about breastfeeding and formula in the programs to come, but try to pay particular attention to that. Why, you ask? You're not going to be breastfeeding. I know you're not going to be breastfeeding. It's your job to make sure that the breastfeeding happens successfully. So I'll say that again. It's your job to ensure that your baby breastfeeds successfully. How does that make sense? I don't know. Obviously, it's mom's job too. Obviously, it's primarily her job. She's already going to be doing it. Odds are she probably wants to give it a good go, and she wants to try to do it, and she wants to successfully do it. She's the one that's going to be sitting there doing it. It's your job to do whatever you can to support that effort and make sure it succeeds. And you may not know this, but actually, even breastfeeding is kind of a two-person job. A lot of times you need someone there to make sure a newborn baby stays awake and continues to nurse, because they're just constantly passing out because they need to sleep like 19 hours a day. They just need to sleep around the clock. Even when you think they're awake, they're sleeping, man. So one of the things I would do is I'd sit there and I'd stroke his face, do whatever I needed to tickle his feet, wake him up. And then he would give cues when he was fully fed and his belly was full. He would kind of purse his lips or close his lips, like basically refuse the nipple. But as long as he's going and nursing, he may fall asleep. That doesn't mean the feeding is over. And mom may be bone tired, so it could be your job to help with that. If you need to stop while you're breastfeeding to burp the baby, you can help with that. If you need to stop to change the baby during the breastfeeding and then get back on the breastfeeding afterwards, you can help with that. So learn as much as you can about breastfeeding. It'll pay off. So the first thing is to support peace, above all in the home, but then also rest, love, fun, nutrition, and hydration. The second thing is to learn as much as you can about caring for newborns. especially, breastfeeding and naps, because there won't be time afterward to do a deep dive on those issues. And the third thing is to get organized. How do you get organized? I came up with 3 ways. The first thing you ought to do is to look ahead at the due date and start to clear your schedule. Think about what you can do to make yourself as available as possible when the baby's born. If you're working for an employer, look into your company's or your employer's parental leave policies, especially for dads. Line that up. If you're self-employed, or if you're not self-employed, either way, how can you stockpile savings now so that you can either take leave, take more leave, even if it's unpaid, do whatever you need to do to be at home as much as you can, at least for the first 3 months. I understand that parental leave policies don't always go that far for parents. I understand the realities of life and that it may not be possible. All I'm trying to tell people is that it is worth the investment of time to be there as much as possible in the first 3 months. Things start to change after the first, 10, 12 weeks. But you're in triage, man, the first 3 months. It is a special time. It's unlike any other time. And mom needs you to be there, and your kid needs you to be there, because it's not a one-person job in the best of cases. So, every family is different. All of our circumstances are different. But whatever you can do, given your particular circumstances, to make yourself as available as possible for as long as possible, it's worthwhile. I would even say, and I say this for effect so that you kind of drive the point home, okay? I'm not telling you to quit your job. I'm just telling you, if my buddy said, hey, man, I work a lot. It's just the nature of my job, Maybe you need to work a lot because it's a grind, you're paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you make a lot of money, but it's a very demanding job and you got to work long hours. To the person that makes money, good money, but works long hours, I would say, I don't know, everybody's different. If you ask me, quit the job. If there's an alternative, if you can make it, if you can get reemployed or find new employment afterward, if there's no way around the long hours, quit it. Don't quit because I'm telling you to, but consider it, because you won't be able to get this time back. And like I said before in the last video, some of the things you do in the 4th trimester in these first 3 months, caring for your newborn, will impact what follows. And it will determine whether you're going to have an easier go of it in the second 3 months and in the second half of the first year and beyond, or not. So the first thing I'd say is clear your schedule, or think about your schedule and what it's going to look like, and start preparing now to provide time and space and resources, financial and otherwise, to care for your baby. Along the line of resources, I would say the second thing for getting organized is to get help and arrange for help by any means necessary, because it is not a one-person job. It is not even a 2-person job, but it sure as heck ain't a 1-person job. With all due respect to single moms out there doing it by themselves, or single dads for that matter, ask them. They will be the first to tell you it is not a freaking 1-person job. It is impossible for one person to do on their own. Impossible. It is not even a 2-person job. But it's at least a 2-person job. So you got to be there, and it behooves you now to take whatever steps you need to try to arrange for help, whether that comes from family, friends, strangers that you vet and contract with, find online or offline or whatever. If grandparents are out of state, can arrangements be made for them to stay with you for a few months? Get help now. I remember having a conversation with an expecting dad who said, he was, he and his wife had moved from Ohio or something like that, and they didn't know anybody out here. And I said, do you have any help? And he said, no. And my advice to him was first, look, I sympathize with your plight. Try to get help. That's the first thing I would tell you. Try to get help somehow. Think about how you can. Think creatively. Maybe there's things you can do now to find help. If you can't, then don't despair. It's going to be okay. But then what I told him is, you got to understand that you need to be there as much as you can be there. I told him that, and I've said this to other people, you will have time for one, maybe two other things, activities, priorities, in addition to your baby. And that's assuming that one of those things is work. So if you need to work, Dad, like we all do, that's one thing. Maybe you have time for a second thing, but that's it. And by the way, for me, the second thing was going to the gym for 45 minutes to an hour, including drive time, in and out, and actually I spent the pregnancy trying to get in the best shape I could because I took 3 months off after the baby was born, didn't go to the gym. So if you absolutely need to see your friends, I love my buddies. I don't want to, not ever, I don't want to lose myself and not hang out with my friends. Fine. You may have time for that when the baby's born. Once a week, I don't know, twice a week, depending on how long, assuming you're not staying out all night and getting wasted, drinking all night. You may have time for that, but that's the second thing. And I mean, and I say one or two things. So, that's why it's important to learn as much as you can now, because there won't be time later, and because there won't be enough hands no matter what in almost any scenario. Try to get help now. Clear your schedule, get help for what? 3 things. Meals. Believe it. I mean, if you're there helping mom take care of the baby, you're the chief lieutenant, she and you are the 2 main caretakers. Grandma, grandpa, grandparents, other friends, family, relatives can be the secondary caretakers. There's really 3 things that people can do to help you. One is meals, basically making sure that mom is fed, that she's getting nourished, that she's getting good calories in her belly, and that the growing baby is getting good calories. When my wife was breastfeeding, we had grandma make a big pot of oatmeal, and we just had this huge pot of oatmeal sitting in the fridge. And whenever, anybody was hungry, but especially mom, you just ladle that oatmeal into a bowl, pop it in the microwave, and then, just spoon feed her even if she's just zonked out because she's so exhausted. But mom needs to try to continue to eat and drink water and take care of herself and sleep as much as she can. So whoever can help you with that, that's the kind of help that would be helpful. The second kind of help that would be helpful is basic housekeeping. I don't think the cleanliness of the house is the most important thing when the baby is born, assuming that, there's no, germs, viruses, bacteria, whatever. But it doesn't matter so much if the house is a little, messy. And if you need to clean, then it makes a lot of sense, I think, if you can get help so that your time and attention could be on mom and the baby, and that both of you don't necessarily have to worry about that. That's a good idea. And then the third area that you will need help with is just the help caring for the baby, shifts with the baby, to help the baby breastfeed, to burp the baby, to change the baby, to soothe the baby, to put him back down during naps if they wake up early and they need to be soothed and put back to finish napping. Like I said, it's not a 1 or even a 2-person job. When our son was a newborn, I tried to go to sleep around 8 o'clock. It was hard to fall asleep at that time, but I tried to, because then I would set the alarm for 2 a.m. I think we had, grandma was staying until midnight or so. And then I was waking up at 2 a.m. to do the 2 to 6, 7, 8 a.m. shift or whatever it was, where help with the breastfeeding. And then if the baby got up early from a nap during the night, My job was to soothe the baby and put it back down so that mom could get more sleep during those hours, so that she at least got 5 hours of sleep or something, for crying out loud, better than nothing. So, that's the kind of help that I would start looking for now. Last thing I want to talk to you guys about is a list of 10 essential items that you may want to think about purchasing now to prepare for the arrival of your baby. This isn't like, I'm not trying to come up with the exhaustive list of all the widgets and gadgets and equipment that you might want to buy. I'm not trying to sell you guys on anything. I think even if you're not inclined to spend any money, these are like the bare essentials that I think you should strongly consider buying. Number one, bassinet. We're going to talk about newborn sleep, but I'll just say here that it's important for a baby to sleep in its own bed space, flat on its back with no pillows or blankets. Look it up, read about it. They say back is best, on its back. And a bassinet is a good, small little bed type space that a newborn baby can make use of for the first 2 or 3 months before you move it over to a crib. You need a bassinet. Diapers is something you should consider buying now. They're pretty expensive, but I mean, you're gonna need them. You're gonna need to have them ready to go from nearly day one, so you might as well have them on hand now, especially as it gets closer to the due date. Wet wipes, a wipe warmer. Because babies do much better with those wet wipes on their smelly, dirty butts when the wipe is warm rather than cold, the same way any of us would react if you had something really cold wiped against our tush. Diaper Genie, if you haven't heard of it, look it up. It's a little contraption that, easily it's like a trash can, self-contained trash can for dirty diapers, and you just cinch it up very easily. You throw it away when the sack gets full. You pop in a new sack, and you have it separate from the other trash cans or receptacles that you have in your house. Very useful. I would invest in a Diaper Genie. Sleep sacks for the naps. Look it up. They're like these onesies where the arms fold over. There's like zippers or Velcro, and it swaddles the baby without you even having to learn how to swaddle a baby, which can be kind of tricky. And we love the sleep sacks. And honestly, your newborn doesn't even need clothes, because most of the time, depending on the ambient temperature in your home, it could just be in its diaper while it's in the home. And then if it needs to be warmed up, or for naps or nighttime, if it's a little cool, you can just put it in the sleep sack. Maybe control the temperature in your home with your thermostat. But sleep sacks are great, and we loved them. And I didn't end up learning how to swaddle so well in the end, because we used the sleep sacks and I didn't have to. Vitamin D drops, get them. Newborns don't spend a lot of time in the sun. I think your pediatrician will tell you to do this anyway, but newborn's probably not going to get enough sunlight. It's hard to get vitamin D from the foods we eat. And those vitamin D drops are going to be important for the teeth, the bones, brain development, a lot of other things. Breastfeeding pillow, maybe not strictly speaking essential, but very, very useful. And whatever you can do to make breastfeeding easier for mom and more likely to succeed, it is incumbent on you to do it. You may be able to use other pillows around the house to create the same support that helps facilitate the breastfeeding, but look at breastfeeding pillows. It's a worthy investment if it ends up helping. Maybe not. They're not all made the same. Maybe there's some breastfeeding pillows that aren't good. I'm not recommending one particular brand or another, but just look into it, because breastfeeding is that important. Sound machine or a white noise machine that makes the sounds of ocean waves or some other rhythmic, melodic, kind of noise that helps babies fall asleep and stay asleep, especially if you have a noisy street that you live next to, cars driving by in the middle of the night, or at all hours of the day, or garage doors opening or closing. Frankly, sound machines are good for even adults. I sleep better when we have the sound machine in our room. But we got it when our son was a baby, and we still use it to this day, even though he's 6 years old. It's a great thing. We talk more about that in the programs that I'm making on sleep, but look at that. Blackout curtains, not essential if the room that the baby is going to be napping in is dark or can be made dark. But the reason why I put it on this list is because it's very good to think about where your baby is going to nap, and whether the room is quiet, whether it's dark, whether it's relatively cool, whether it's going to be comfortable in those ways so that the baby can take good naps. Like all humans, Babies sleep better when the room is quiet, when it's dark, and when it's cool. The room that we had our kid in the living room in a bassinet, and we had this command center set up when he was born. 2-3 months in, we moved him over to the other room where his actual room, and where the crib was, and we realized that the way the sun set in the afternoons, that room was light as hell. And even with the curtains closed, it was way too bright. It was going to be hard for him to nap. So that day, in a mad scramble, I went out to the store and we bought blackout curtains, and I installed them, and we use them to this day. Something that I didn't think about beforehand, but you ought to think about. And whether you get blackout curtains or not, and if you don't get them because you don't need them, great. But it's very, very good to think about where your baby's going to be napping and prepare for that ahead of time. Make sure that it's a place that's quiet, dark, and cool. Bibs, all babies spit up. There's going to be spit up no matter who your baby is. That's just what they do. They nurse or they drink milk from a bottle, and then some of it comes back up. Bibs are going to be, not strictly speaking essential, but you don't have to constantly change them out of their sleep sacks or their onesies or whatever. You may not need to buy very many clothes at all if you spend the money on bibs instead. And last is a rear-facing car seat. Definitely essential. Probably its own program, car seats, but there's information online about car seats, and your hospital and your pediatrician are gonna, prenatal doctor. Everybody's going to tell you that it's important, so I won't dwell on that. There's a million other things that we could talk about in terms of preparing and doing everything to get as prepared and organized as possible. For example, the healthcare providers and professionals will tell you, or you may learn along the way, that you got to set your water heater temperature at home, for example, to a maximum of 120 degrees. I personally, if you're going to give your baby a bath, that's vital, because somebody's going to forget and they're going to leave the hot water on, and then the baby's going to get scalded by water that's too hot. And, as soon as we feel something that's scaldingly hot, we flinch, we move our hand away, and even if we get a little bit burned, we don't burn as quickly, and even if we do get burned, we can deal with it. Baby's not going to be able to react or move away, and if something happens, it could even be very bad. But that's the kind of thing that it's just one of the little tidbits. And my intention here isn't to, again, cover everything that could be covered in preparing. The purpose of this video was to really just cover those three things. Those are the three things you can do when you're getting ready, and the three things you can do when mom is pregnant. Support peace, rest, love, fun, nutrition, and hydration in the home. Learn as much as you can about newborns and what to do when your kid gets home. And third is to get organized by clearing your schedule, arranging for help by any means necessary, and obtaining the bare essentials that you're going to need on day one. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions about that, and take care. See you next time.